Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right. What's up, Greg? Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're making fun of me because that's how I start off every podcast. You jackass.
Yeah, what's going on?
Oh, man. Well, as you can tell, got a little bit of the crazy voice. Got a cold a couple days ago. I think one of my daughters might have dragged something home. I caught it. So now I got the runny nose, the cough, and the crazy voice. But we are here with episode 16. Really excited. Got some cool stuff to share with you all.
So we kind of want to just start off with talking about a little bit about how the podcast got started. Do you remember that day when we were driving up to Lake Havasu, just talking and listening to Gary Vee and talking about podcasts and other things and our industry, our business, and just kind of felt like we were a little lost in the moment on how to grow and move forward. And do you remember that day? Yeah,
I definitely remember that day. Almost like it was yesterday. I mean, we were just kind of cruising and talking about, not even just Brothers Pool Surface, our business, but just the industry as a whole and some of the events that we had been to. Mm-hmm. And just trying to figure out how we were going to raise the bar for our business and just the industry in general, because it's something you can't do by yourself. Sure. All of us as a whole, even in the city of Scottsdale where we do business, in order for us to get what we want, we need everybody to be on the same page. You know what I mean? There's got to be more than, out of, 500 pool service and repair companies, there's got to be at least, half of those or a quarter of those doing the right thing and not just a handful of them.
Right.
So, but back to that drive, it was pretty crazy listening to some Gary Vee. That's always very motivational. And I know we got to that gas station. We were probably about 20 minutes from the Lake Havasu house for the retreat.
Yep.
And after all that, I was just like, you know what? Why don't we do what Gary's doing? And, some of these other guys, why don't we start a podcast for the pool industry? And I remember, it just kind of clicked, you know what I mean? And sometimes, we'll go back and forth, but it just like clicked. And you were like, yeah, like, why don't we freaking do it? What's keeping us from doing that? It can't be that hard. But little did we know that balancing Brothers and Pool Chasers was definitely going to be almost 2 full-time gigs.
Yeah. It's definitely much more than we anticipated.
Yeah. But it's all worth it. Even in the beginning, we didn't really know what this was going to be exactly. We just know that we wanted to be surrounded by like-minded and positive individuals that want to be professional and want to raise the bar and want to do everything the right way. We know that that's what we wanted. And I know shortly after that, we made plans to go to the international show in Orlando.
Yep.
Yeah. So we did that. And I remember do we have business cards?
For Pool Chasers?
Yeah.
No.
So
No, we had nothing.
Yeah, I think we were kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing. Because I remember we were talking to all the companies out there like, oh, this is what we have going on. We want to interview, your business or your company and this and that. How do we get a hold of the CEO or CFO or how do we get a hold of that person? And it was a ton of fun. But even going back to the hotel and having dinner, we were just like, man, so what exactly are we doing? What? Even to the point of like, what equipment do we need? Because I know we were recording stuff on your Zune. They had plugged into your phone.
Yep.
Which was super cool. What was that the other night, Wednesday night or late night? We were listening to some of the talks we had back in like December, which was just freaking crazy.
Yeah. A lot of the original ideas, a lot of the original discussions, which actually a lot of them have kind of played out to what we thought they were, which is a little unreal because you would think you would make a lot of adjustments. But even back then, we were pretty much doing what we had talked about doing. So
yeah, it's funny when you're before every sentence you say, wouldn't it be crazy if, wouldn't it be crazy if, and it's like, what, 9 months later, it's all reality.
Yeah.
All those things, what if, it's like, no, that's happening right now, man.
Yeah, even then, even in the car ride, man, that was like, it was such a tease because we we got there 20 minutes outside of Havasu, and we came up with, you came up with the idea where, when we started a podcast, and then we had bantered a little bit, but then like the whole entire time, that's all I could think about, like in my back of my mind, was like how we're going to do that. It became like this huge like idea in both of our heads, where we were like hanging out with our brother's team, and it was like super fun, and we were, hanging out and enjoying the time together. But in the quiet times when we were hiking, or when at the end of the day when I was laying in bed or whatever, it was like, oh man, we gotta figure out how we're gonna do this.
Yeah, because we definitely needed something else to do.
Yeah, but it was cool because it was just this little idea that became this huge project. And back then it was crazy because we had talked about certain things on the ride there, where we're still working on a lot of those things, where we're trying to put policies and procedures in place and making things better and making our team better. And but what's out there to help you do that? I mean, there's not much out there, especially back then. We became with this idea that could help and transform the industry, but we really didn't even know what it was. It was just like a little idea where, there's got to be something. Why can't we be the people that like push this bar, because we know we work hard and we have a good, honest business, and we just really genuinely want to grow and build something the right way. And there was really like nothing out there, besides some stuff. I was remembering we were talking, and I know when we first started, like, you weren't there with me in the beginning, but it was like every day was a struggle, like trying to find some idea and some help. But I had this friend, and I know I've mentioned it before, but like I thought it was the craziest freaking thing in the world that he just bought a pool route. And I didn't understand. I'm like, well, that seems kind of weird. And like we talked about episode 1, like we didn't look at pools in that way. It was like, it's just a pool and you just swim in it. Like that's a business.
It takes care of itself.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you just take your water into Leslie's and it's like magically clean all the time, and it does, whatever. And that was an insane idea to me. I don't understand like how you can make money doing that. And so I just researched and talked to him more, and I was like, man, this is actually something. And at the same time, I knew Ed had like just bought this place, and I had kind of like, knew he knew about the pool industry. So anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But like when I was like trying to research this industry and figure out like what to do, where to find things, why you would buy a pool route, there's nothing even there. Like it was just impossible to find any information anywhere. So
yeah, definitely doing the research. It's kind of crazy because you see all the blogs and all the articles that are written, maybe even on Facebook. It's all dated from like early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s. And it's like there was some momentum somewhere, in time, but then it's like somebody let off the gas, or maybe the industry collectively just kind of let off the gas a little bit on putting out information on, different things. But I also think that's more, I think a lot of people don't want to share too much information, because if you share too much information, it's like somebody's going to take food from your mouth. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I'm not going to tell everybody how to do that, because if I do that, then, they're going to get the business because their business looks cooler, or whatever they think that, whatever maybe the insecurities may be about your business. I think it's a good thing. And I think, we do a pretty good job of sharing what we do know. I mean, there's still quite a bit that we haven't talked about, but, building up communities is...
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I think what we realized, that Gary talks about all the time, is that just because you share something, it takes a whole other person to actually take that knowledge and run with it. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to, you might spark the next brothers or the next business, but all that does is raise the bar. It just helps. I mean, especially I guess other parts of the country and different places don't have the amount of pools that we do. So it might be a little bit more hesitant, if you live in smaller towns, but I mean, it still takes somebody whole completely different to run a business. I mean, you can be the best technician ever, but do you understand how to run the books? Do you understand how to do social media? Do you understand how to grow your business? No. All you know how to do is clean pools. And I'm not like harking on that, because I think that takes talent as well to learn chemistry and all that stuff. But just because you know how to clean a pool doesn't mean you can run a,
Yeah.
your own business. And Gary says all the time, like number 84 in Facebook makes more money than, 90% of people out there, because he knows that that's what he's good at and that's what he should be doing, not running his own thing.
Yeah. I think there's so many people that need to understand that in order to get to that next level, you have to sacrifice everything. Because even, I remember, I worked at the military base for about 8 years. And even when I started, my little face mask business, I gave up, having drinks with my friends, and I stayed up crazy late and I got 3 hours of sleep, and I made trips to Los Angeles to get things cut and sewn. And I went through all of that. And it's funny getting it to a point to where people could be like, oh, that's cool. You just had a kind of cool idea and, it just appeared and happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, man, I could do that, or I could do, you know what I mean? Something similar to that. And it's like, no, you can't, man. No. Like, I see your lifestyle. You have no idea what it takes. And it's, we might not talk about it all the time, but you have no idea the sacrifices that are made. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like building up this thick skin where you wake up super early, you do the business, you have to, pick your kids up, or you have to do this and that. And then you still got to make these calls and do the emails and then come in, crazy late at night. It's, that's not for everybody. And if you want to get to that next level, for the greater good. And I think some might think like, well, I'm not doing that for the rest of my life. But it's like, well, if you have a plan, sometimes you have to sacrifice everything to get to where you want to be. So you're not having to do that for the rest of your life.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It takes a lot of sacrifice to go from cleaning pools to running something, to running your own business, for sure.
That's a whole nother thing. But either way, we can't fully express how excited we are to see how fast the Pool Chasers community has really grown. And we thank all of you for the continuous support, because this is just mind-blowing when we're just getting notifications on, the Facebook group and Instagram and Facebook and all those different things, and emails and the forms that were filled out. It's really the coolest thing. And that's truly what motivates us to do this day in, day out. And sometimes can be a little, slow to get some things out or comment back and things like that. But we know you guys understand, especially if you know our story, that, it's a summertime and we're trying to balance, brothers and pool chasers at the same time. It's an insane amount of work. We're just, we're doing the best that we can, but we know how valuable this community is to everybody, including ourselves. We count on you guys because we damn sure don't know everything. And that's part of why we started this in the first place, was to get answers, to find the people that, we truly respect in the industry, and have, them be on the show where we can ask them, questions about things that we don't necessarily know. Mm-hmm. And it just makes it fun and interesting. It's crazy even talking to the builders. We don't build pools, but there's so many things that you really don't understand. And it's really valuable for you to know, even just taking care of a pool.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's brought us crazy value, and we really hope that it's done the same for you guys, because we really think that this is, going to better off everybody's business. We know it's done a lot for ours.
It's been super humbling to you and me both, because I knew it was a need, and we had talked about it being a need in the industry, but didn't realize, how many other people were out there that had the same kind of mentality, the same kind of want to learn and understand. And, we can't even express we've gotten hundreds and thousands of responses. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to just bring to the attention to it's so humbling for us to be a part of it and be the voice of it. And it's just kind of like every day, we go into our office here and we talk about, hey, did you see that from that guy? That's so crazy. It's so super cool that, this part of the episode changed his whole business, or he's looking at this in a whole different light because, the same way we are. We're not telling people information. We're not telling them how to run the business. We're just sharing what we know and what we can, and providing this platform for others to share, and, trying to figure out what best can be on the podcast for you all and us to kind of just learn and grow every aspect of it. Like you said, with the builders, we don't build pools, but it's helped us understand when we're doing bids and when we're doing other things, to looking at the plumbing, to looking at the size of the equipment, to looking at how, vacuum lines are ran or how returns are set and how other things are all lined up. That we didn't really think about any of that before we started interviewing a lot of these people. It just
or even the
opened to
problems, or even the problems that occur that, it was a pool might have a problem and we couldn't figure it out, but structurally it was built wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's so many different things that, you can kind of look at it and figure that out. And it's crazy because now you're like, you know what? This isn't my fault or my problem.
Yeah.
And I'm getting, shit for it. You know what I mean? It's like, were you the one, being tight with your money and built a freaking pool half the price that you should have?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And it just it's pretty cool to see it that way. Not that we would ever be that way with a customer, but it's pretty cool to see it from a different point of view.
To understand it's not our fault. A pool's turning green or it has poor circulation. There's other things involved. It's not just us. You know what I mean? So it's pretty crazy to see that. And it's been amazing to see how this has developed and I'm so proud to be a part of it, as I know you are. And it's like every day, those emails and those direct messages and the Facebook forum and just everything is kind of motivating for us. It just helps us to know that we're doing something good and helping people out. And just, it's tremendous amount of work, man. And, it's just like we talked about, when you're going to, pools and you clean pools, but like transitioning from that into running your own business. This is definitely a whole nother thing. We never really thought, was this much work, but it's transitioned into like, okay, now it's a daily process. Like you have boards in your room that tell you, make sure you check certain things now. I just made one yesterday. Make sure I check things every day because there's so much to remember now and so much going on that we have to keep it as organized as possible. And I know that's your big thing. And we're hoping to push that with brothers and pool chasers and a lot of stuff, but it's crazy that it's just grown to this huge platform in only 9 months. And it definitely took off much faster than we thought.
And it's making us better.
For sure.
So I want to go back a little bit because we're really trying to discuss, the community and how it's just going to keep growing and getting better and things like that. So I want to talk kind of a little bit about when you were at the swimming pool warehouse and you were, breaking down the motors and repairing them and doing things like that. What was your interaction like? I mean, just being with the employees that work there and just some of the pool professionals that would come in and, homeowners, different things like that. What was your relationship, with those people?
Yeah, I remember, we talk, it's crazy because there was a part of time when I was sitting in the office at my other job and I was trying to like learn pools and we had a couple pools at that time that I was cleaning. And I thought, you know what, I can't balance these two things and give 100%. There's no way that they're two completely opposite industries. I can't give my full 100% effort into it. So I need to find a way that I can get out and dive straight into this because this is it. I want to work for myself. I know I work hard. I can do the grind and I want to do and develop something that provides stuff for now, my family and now your family. And, it was something that was sparked inside me and I didn't want to just try to give half and half effort. So, luckily Ed had bought the warehouse and it was about to get into summertime. So he needed help. So, it worked out for both of us. He hired me. He needed a good worker and I needed to learn. But it was really cool because we both knew at some point that I was leaving. It was all open on the table. It was like, hey, this works out for both of us. Like I'll work through the summer and get you, through the summer. And then you also can help me learn. And, it was a crazy interaction, man. I mean, to sit back there and just see, a homeowner bring in a vacuum and watch Kenny understand, like take it apart and explain to me why certain parts aren't working, or they would bring in their water to be tested. And, Kenny would talk about like, oh yeah, you need to do this and you need to add these chemicals. And, oh, this is what's going on with it. Like our, run times and circulations and, different types of chemicals that can adjust it. And that was like a huge learning experience for me. And then not obviously taking apart motors and stuff helped with repairs. And I learned, but I got to hear hundreds and thousands of pool guys come in that had issues, you know what I mean? And that's similar to what we're doing now by telling people struggles and trying to learn from them. It's the same thing. Like I sat in there on the table and I would listen to the diagnose things and be like, yeah, well, this is why this happened. And, oh, look at the impeller is broken here, it chipped here, and it's not drawing water because of this. Like there was all kinds of different stuff where if I wasn't in there, man, I would have never learned. So that's the best choice I could have ever made, was to like dive into it and just learn as much as I could. And it was a huge, uplifting like thing. So
yeah, no, that's the best thing I think you could have done. And, it benefited, all of us, brothers and all of us. But
yeah, but I mean, that one other thing, I mean, I remember the hustle and the grind, man. And it was very difficult to, wake up at freaking early morning, get to the house before the sun rose up, knock out as many pools as possible, then go work 8 hours in the shop, then go clean more pools, then go home, then answer emails or try to call people when they're freaking at dinner and it's awkward, but you're like, this is the only time I have to talk to you. So it's like 7 o'clock, and then going in and doing billing at certain times and and at that point, trying to research even more and learn like, okay, well, I need to figure out how to like fix this problem I'm having at this pool, and nobody can teach me. So I remember like searching on YouTube or Googling things, and there's just like not much there. You know what I mean? And I know everybody, like I learned half of what I learned from David on the YouTube channel, and I'm sure everybody listening knows who he is because you probably watched his videos. Like I learned from him, but that was like the only thing there besides, trial and error in the field. And it's very difficult. I remember like trying to figure out how to get an SEP account or PWP account. Like nobody tells you how to do that. There's nothing online that says, hey, you go out and fill this form out. There's nothing there. I remember going to and then going in there and like asking them for the applications was awkward and weird and just trying to figure out. And I remember every day trying to go and get supplies where it was like, I felt stupid because I didn't know part names. I didn't want to like look awkward or have people make fun of me. Like that was difficult. I know like through different episodes now, we've heard like some other places might not be that way. And I think there's a lot of good pool guys out there. I know we talk about the negative a lot. And I know somebody mentioned about in the Facebook feed the other day that like their experience with different Facebook groups have been the same as ours, which is cool. I mean, that's positive and that's awesome that like people are still getting stuff out of those other Facebook groups. Just seems like there's a lot of negativity, but there's definitely a lot of good pool guys out there with a lot of good information too. So
yeah, well, I definitely agree with all that. I mean, you take the good with the bad, you know what I mean? But it's just our experience. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the experience that we have. So that's the story we're going to tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I think the industry's come a long way because I think, Zodiac has their academy. I know Hayward and Pentair have their back end learning things where you can watch videos and learn their products and these things but I think the biggest thing and what's cool about the podcast is nobody tells you that it's out there. Like you just start a business and you can't find any information on anything. Like, did you know like that you get money back from if you have an account with certain things, and you can get money back for buying supplies from Pentair or from Zodiac or Hayward, like you get rebates and like different stuff. Like I didn't know that for like 2 years.
Yeah, that's one of the million things I didn't know.
Yeah, I know. So like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like nobody tells you where all that stuff exists. I mean, yeah, the manufacturers have all these things, but is that the case? Do you still have to go out there yourself and find that? Like you had to go to SEP and find Mark Hernandez before we could actually jump into her, full on repairs. We had to go we had to go ask people for our own, like for Tish and for Nick, like we had to ask for that. We didn't even know it existed like until like somebody was like mentioned, oh, I have a rep. Like, oh, what? There's reps exist? Like, yes, reps exist. Like something like this platform allows us to tell people.
But even like, that whole deal was so weird because he's like looking around as a SEP at the counter. He's like, you know what? He's like, I know you've been asking, for some help on repairs. He's like, I might know somebody. And like all like super, under the table, wrote down his name and phone number and said, this is the guy you're going to want to call. Don't give this number out, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay. And then, we finally, linked up with Mark Hernandez, and that was just like, I was one of the top, 5 moments in our business that really everything took a a turn for the best. But that just kind of proves, I think, once that happened and other things that we did, we reached out with Michael Dennis of X Pools, just because he was so heavy into automation, and there was tons of rumors about just how he ran his business and he did things the right way. And we just knew that he'd be a good mentor and just a good person for things that we didn't know how to do, because we were trying to refer a company, that did certain things. And it just kind of proved that sometimes you need to speak up.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, is just like at every opportunity, no matter, how scared you are and how, if you think people are going to think you're stupid, you know what I mean? Like, you can't think that way. You got to put that stuff aside, because you need to think about, I think about my family, and I think about, what, if I ask that person right there, which probably knows the answer to my question, I can probably stop messing around, looking through manuals, looking through this, looking through that. That dude's already been through it. If he'll give me the time of day, he'll just tell me how that works and how it works like this. And, just kind of pushing through that, put your pride aside and just speak up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, a lot of people are probably too prideful to do that, but that's
But
the
then
easy
some
way,
people
man.
are like way too aggressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to have a balance to it.
Yeah.
I've had people not even introduce themselves and just like, hey, how do you do this? I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Are you the IRS? Like, what? Let me see a badge. Like,
Right, for sure.
so it's definitely got to be a good balance to that. But
But I think what I was getting at is that the podcast seems to be where we can put that information out there, like with Pool Pro and different other things we talked about, Pool Pro magazine, and it's like those avenues are out there, and like we're telling you they're out there. You know what I mean? That was the biggest thing for me when I was trying to think about these notes for talking with you and me right now, was like that was the hardest part, I think, out of anything, was nobody was telling you that stuff existed. That's the hardest part. Yes, I think the industry has, like I said, has come a long way, and I think there's a lot out there for us to learn and do. But I didn't know about the trade shows. I didn't know about nobody even talks about any of that. And that's what's so cool, I think, about this podcast is what if 5 years ago, when you and I were doing things like something like this existed, where they were like, hey, go to your local, SEP, go ask for your reps, go ask for, your number to be like, so you can get rebates back from when you buy parts. Go ask, your mentor, go ask somebody else how to do things. Stop wasting time. Stop, everything like that is so, so valuable. And that's what's so cool about it. And I think that's what the feedback's been a lot on it. And I think, that's super cool, because I would really love that back in the day.
yeah, heck yeah. It's crazy. Things would have been totally different if there was something like that. I mean, we listened to, we found Brett Guru's podcast, back in the day, and that was like finding a golden ticket. I mean, as soon as, heard that first episode, it's like, what the hell? I mean, it was like talking about, business, kind of some more strategic, like structure plans and things like that. And just, water chemistry, I think, and, some other topics. Unfortunately, I think it might've been just a little bit before its time, because podcasts were still probably not as big, you know what I mean? But also, the pool industry hadn't hopped on social media quite yet, as heavy. So it was really difficult, because Instagram has been such a huge platform for us to really get the podcast out there. So that helped us out quite a bit, kind of get the exposure to podcasts. Because after reading those forums, there's quite a bit of people that have never really listened to any kind of audiobooks or podcasts or anything like that.
Right.
But it's crazy, because I've been listening to podcasts for close to 8-10 years now. And it's been awesome, but it all depends on what you do. And we drive around a lot. There's a lot of times, if you're a pool service technician, or, you're still cleaning pools and stuff like that, is something as easy as just listening, you know what I mean? And, it's much easier than having a book in your hands and reading it, because we don't always have time for that.
Right.
So it's such a cool thing, but
Yeah,
I know that
was a lot of respect for Brett for even trying that back in the day, because I really enjoyed his podcast, man. I remember cleaning a pool that we still have today, that while listening to his podcast and then talking to you when you were at Harley, and be like, hey, did you hear did you hear what he said about this part? Like, did you hear about? And that's actually, I think that's how I heard about the trade show for the first time, was on his podcast, because he had a couple episodes where he was interviewing people at a trade show, and I was like, oh man, this thing is cool. Like, there's actually a show for us. Like,
right.
who knew?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them.
So, I mean, in getting into that, I mean, how did you feel and what was your experience with the first pool show you had ever been to? I mean, what were you even thinking you were going to get out of it, making plans to go to your first pool show?
I really had no idea because it was, like I said, nobody told you about it. So I would assume, I mean, I've heard about other shows and seen different things, and I've talked to you about, obviously, your shows you've been to. So I had an idea, but I don't know what my expectations were really going there other than to check it out and try to look and see what's out there for the future, you know, learning, because my knowledge was still pretty limited at that time. As yours was almost nothing.
Yeah.
The first one we went to. So it was kind of, you know, I don't know, it was a little bit mind blowing where it was so big, but at the same time it was some of the classes and their stuff were still, like you said, like back in the 80s and 90s, outdated, and there was some stuff where I was like, well, that doesn't really apply to, you know, nowadays and things like that. So it was a really cool experience going and seeing all that. And, you know, but there's definitely, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it, like a lot of room to grow in those areas. So what did you think of it?
To be honest, you know, the first pool show that I had been to with you was the Western Pool and Spa show in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited to go because I'd been to a lot of shows before for different things I had done in life. So I was like, cool, man, you know, I'm a business partner and we're going to go do this show together, and, you know, got the hotel room for a few days, which was kind of funny. Isn't that the one where we walked in and somebody was in our room?
Yes.
Dude, that was so crazy. Dude, we like totally got our room key or whatever. And this was like, I don't know if it was like Signal Hill or wherever it's at.
Signal Hill.
Yeah. And we like opened up our room and there was like people in there and we're like, what the hell? We like go back and like, hey man, somebody in that room, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I think we like hopped on like our phones right away to see if we could get like another hotel closer. We're like, dude, we'll dig into our savings if we have to, like to get like, you know, a nicer hotel with nobody that we're gonna have to share the room with. But anyway, just kind of, you know, doing something to help make the business better. I think the idea of that was just like so cool. Mm-hmm. But just kind of on top of not knowing much and walking through the aisles, I couldn't help but think that swimming pools were sexy and fun, and they brought so much joy to people's lives that the people that make that possible, there was nothing visually appealing to me about anything. And I felt like most of the people walking around the show to some degree kind of, I don't want to say put their head down and weren't making eye contact, but it didn't seem much like a community to me. It was unlike anything I had seen before. So maybe I had different expectations, but that was kind of my first thought, is just going through there. And I was like, man, this might be all right for everybody else, but there might be a generation or somebody more like me that would want to see this in a different way. Because I can't see how you could possibly run your business the best way you can or use the best products possible. And this is the way that it's kind of displayed to you. And nothing against anybody at those shows, because it's freaking awesome. And we've learned so much. And I had a lot more respect for it once I learned more. But I always kind of thought that there was a way for us to kind of, you know, make things a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And after talking with Megan Kendrick, you know, and how she was asking, you know, like it's critical to give feedback because that's how they can make that the best magazine that it can be. I think we all kind of need to take it upon us when we get, you know, one of those papers that, you know, you rate the show or rate the class or this and that. I bet if we really took time and wrote how we truly felt, you know what I mean? I bet you that they could, you know, maybe make things a little bit better, maybe make the classes a little bit more tailored for what we need and make the show a little bit more, you know, tailored to what we would want and what we would want to see, you know? Mm-hmm. So with, you know, all of that, you know, it was just, wasn't, you know, the greatest experience, but we definitely made that a habit going there every year because it was in Long Beach and, you know, it got better. Yeah,
definitely gets better. And, you know, it's exciting to go be part of something that is your industry regardless of what it is. So yeah, I think you're right. It's a mentality, and I think it's a pool industry mentality more than anything, that you just kind of standoffish. They don't want to talk a lot. They want to share a lot. But like, how are we supposed to make it better if you guys don't speak up and we don't speak up and say, hey, you know, I really think that, you know, this class was super awesome and it helped me so much and grow my business. Like, please bring it back next year. Or, you know, this class kind of seems a little bit outdated and there's a lot of stuff that kind of doesn't apply anymore, I think. And, you know, maybe more things like automation and, you know, different types of levels of automation would help, like a beginner, intermediate, expert kind of, and just different types of things about how you actually run your business and how you can actually make your business better. Different classes like that would be much, you know, but how is anybody supposed to know if you don't speak up? How is Megan Kendrick supposed to make Pool Pro better if you don't speak up? How are we supposed to make this podcast better if you don't speak up? Like, you can't. There's nothing, like, that's why we wanted the feedback forms so much, because we really want to try to make this the best we can possible. And if you haven't filled out one yet, please do, because they're truly, truly tremendous, and they help us a lot because it helps us see a lot of the struggles and a lot of what you guys want to hear in the podcast. And we're definitely using a lot of those to come up with future ideas and future episodes. But it's, that feedback is critical, and I don't think anybody gives it to the shows. I mean, I'm guilty of that myself. Like, those papers at classes, I just kind of circle 10, 10, 10 and pass it in. But, you know, when I thought it was a 6, but you know, I should have marked 6 and should have wrote something and said, you know, hey, this is an idea to make this better next time, maybe.
Yeah. Instead of, you know, just kind of bashing it a little bit, because I'm guilty of being a little bit of, you know, kind of judging something where it's like, dude, take responsibility and speak up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If nobody's ever done that, then why the hell would anybody change it? Right. It's like, oh, the same, say 1,000 people come to the show every single year since, you know, the freaking 80s or whatever it would be. It's like, if that's the turnout you get and that's the turnout you want, and you don't have to change things up too much, like, why would you do it? You know what I mean?
You have no reason to change it because nobody's telling you that it's, you know, it can be better.
I was literally sitting next to somebody in one of those classes where a gentleman was saying to, like, you know, write everything down on a piece of paper and like file it in this box in the passenger seat. And there was somebody younger than me sitting right next to me, and he was writing all this down, and I could just tell it was like blowing his mind, like what that guy was saying. And I like tapped him. I was like, dude, do not write that down. I'm like, meet me like outside of here. I'm leaving right now. Because to me, I just, you know, and I think they were talking about, the person that was speaking was like, you know what? You know, you can put stuff online. There's like different, you know, softwares and things like that. But what happens if, you know, you can't log in or the system crashes and this and that, which, you know, I think, you know, we get that to a certain degree, but I would think it'd be a lot more likely that somebody breaks into your car and takes a big box of whatever, you know what I mean? Or your car, God forbid, catches on fire or something like that. I mean, there's literally no backup for that. Mm-hmm. If that stuff gets stolen or burns up, like that's all the information you have for that person. Like, it's just gone. Like, there's no, you know, waiting for software to, you know, update or figure things out, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's literally just gone. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, you know, seeing something like that, it just, to me, I was like, man, it's, you know, if this time was 2016 or 17, it's like, dude, there's a much better way of doing things than writing things down and filing it in your car.
Yeah, and that being said, too, I mean, we use so many different types of technologies to run Brothers and obviously Pool Chasers. But I think what we've come to realization in the last couple months is, like, paper still matters. You know what I mean? And
sure.
Like, so I think there's definitely some people that need to come out of those dark ages and, you know, embrace technology. But there's also, I mean, we've been kind of, I know you especially have been taking a lot more notes and writing more things down on paper instead of like on a phone, because it's tangible and you can look at it and you know, it's so we're going back to some paper stuff at Brothers a little bit, and, you know, I think it's going to help that. And, you know, there's definitely people who need to come out of the dark ages, but we also need to embrace those parts that like help us and continue to grow.
Yeah. And the technology is also, you got to keep up with your customers. Mm-hmm. If that's the way they're receiving information and reports and all that stuff from every other company, that's the way that they're going to want to do things with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I have, you know, 5 different companies that stop by my house for different services, and they all leave me, you know, some type of like online digital report, invoice, whatever it may be. And you're still leaving like a tag in my skimmer, or you're hanging something on my door or something like that. Not that that's the way you do things. I definitely understand that. And there's certain customers that want to keep things like that. But it definitely makes things difficult when you're looking at it from a business perspective of tracking chemicals and tracking costs and tracking customers and tracking your team. There's so many elements to it. You know what I mean? Because when you have those numbers and you can run reports and do things like that, you can find problems because the numbers usually don't lie.
Yep.
And it's really difficult to do that when you're depending on,
route books or route sheets or paper tags.
And it's crazy time consuming. So
and waste paper.
Yeah. So I think, with that, talking about the shows, I definitely have a huge advantage, and I didn't think much about it until, late last night, is that when I started, my first little business, which was a face mask company that I did, many years ago, is that I was hungry to be an entrepreneur. And I went to Agenda Trade Show, and I went to the magic shows and different kind of like more fashion, like more urban fashion shows. And when I went to those, it was a gamble. So for the magic show, I forked out like almost over $3,000 to go to that show. So I was like, man, I better get something out of this because I've heard nothing but like amazing things about this show. Like I better get something out of it. And I went to it, and it was seriously unlike anything I'd ever been to. And I went all by myself. I pretty much did most of like that kind of stuff by myself because I didn't want to, people speed up and you got to keep up with them and this and that. Like I like taking notes and just like, I'm on my time. I'm going to be here the whole damn time. I'm going to go do what I want to do. So I went through all of it, and I just remember random people that own their own business. They didn't have a booth there, but just walking around, like they were like, hey, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like there was coffee bars and places to eat all over the place. And they'd be like, hey, what do you do? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, no way. Like, where you source your material from, or blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, and you'd share information, and you just talked all the time. Like it almost, after the first day, it felt like you were just friends with everybody. You know what I mean? You would just see people and you didn't even know who they were. And you just like, you felt comfortable enough because so many people had done it to you that you could just run into somebody and be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, that's a cool jacket. That's a cool shirt. Like, what are you here for? Like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Like it was almost turned into like, that's exactly what it was. You went there to, there was different workshops. There was sourcing. So if you did things with, like I was there looking for denim and different, cotton-based products and elastic cord and things like that. So when I was there, I was looking for something specific. And branding, of course, was super huge there. And that was something that I really fell in love with, was just the whole typography and, just the branding aspect of it. But the whole time being there, I mean, the energy could have blown the roof off that place. It was seriously like that electric and that cool. And I know just being there and seeing what that community had to offer, and so many years later being a part of the pool industry, I think I had such high expectations of that. But now looking at it, I know that is like a different age demographic, and I think they wanted it to be that way, so that's what it became. And I think that same thing is going to happen with what we do. If there's enough people that want it to be a certain way and they want to get the most of being at certain events and things like that, they're going to speak up, or they're going to make, they're going to put up, a booth, and they're going to want to do workshops, and they're going to want to, just be a certain way. Because I remember I could actually be happy in there. I used to go into SEP and stuff. I remember like being like genuinely happy, you know what I mean? Doing the business with you, and I get to be by pools all the time. Like, it's like a little kid. Like, it was just that cool. And I felt like it was almost kind of weird to some people, be like, I'm a pool guy, dude. Like, my life freaking sucks. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm a pool guy too. It's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Before this, I was looking at military parts all day long, and I drove 120 miles a day and did this and that. I get to be next to water all day and some cool water features and different things like that. And yeah, some pools, are better than others, but it's like, make the best of it. This is your life at stake, and your happiness actually means something. You know what I mean? If you're going to be a part of something, whether it be the pool industry or whatever it's going to be, why don't you make the freaking best of it? And that's exactly what I think that we're trying to do. We started brothers, and we made that exactly what we wanted it to be. We want it to look a certain way. We wanted the culture to be a certain way. We wanted everything to jive a certain way. So that's what it became. And we're still building on making that better. And that's the same thing with, the Pool Chasers community. It's not just us two. It's the whole, anybody that is positive and wants to make their business better and they want to learn and they want to be a part of the community. Like, that's exactly what we're doing. And that's what we want. And we want to elevate it in every aspect that we can, but we depend on everybody to speak up. It's kind of crazy that I haven't really had time to really do too much in the Facebook group, but it is so freaking cool that everybody in there they're pool chasers. You know what I mean? They're just in there and they're just mixing it up. They're asking the questions. They're responding back and forth. They're being positive. Like, it's seriously like the coolest thing that we could go and help build other things to make things better. And the people in there are seriously like taking action and, and doing the right thing. So that to us, I know that seriously is everything. And what this is, going to turn into in the future is, it's pretty sweet.
It is. So let's take action, guys. Go to that show. If you can get to the international show, do it. Go surround yourself with other people that want to be in the industry. Let's take the industry, make it look better. Let's try to raise the bar together. Go to that show with expectations. Go to that show with, hey, I want to learn about this and I want to meet these people. And I've seen, especially with Instagram, we're friends with all kinds of pool companies all over, not just the Pool Chasers one, but through brothers and through our personal Instagrams. There's, lots of pool companies that we're friends with now. Go there specifically to see those people and talk with them and relate to one another and be part of this community that helps each other grow. And let's take the time to go to the industry, figure out what you want out of it and make it happen. Make the international show the best show you've ever been to and have that mentality and have that attitude. And when somebody talks to you, talk back. It's pretty simple.
Don't be afraid.
Talk back to them, because that's what it's all about. Maybe they've been through the same thing you're going through right now and they already accomplished it. Maybe they've taken the 16 steps it takes to make something better and you've only done 4, and you're like, wow, I didn't understand that I need to take these extra steps to make it better. Maybe they've done that. Maybe they've dealt with a customer in a way that you're about to, and you can save yourself from going back and forth with, making a big deal with the customer online or something. There's lots of stuff you don't know that people have been through, that we've been through. And, without asking people about it, how are you supposed to learn? That's the best way, the community.
Couldn't agree more. So with all of that being said, we will be at the Las Vegas show. We are honored to be with Jobber, which is actually one of our sponsors, for the show. But
yes, thank you, Jobber.
Yeah, thank you so much. So they gave us kind of like a little table space within their booth. They got a pretty good booth size, but we're going to be there with them. So we're going to have a great time and just kind of telling the Pool Chasers story and message. And we'll have a little bit of merch there where you can grab, some different things. But we're really looking forward to being there with you all. But the big news, big announcement is we decided, after going through all the forums and just seeing how the community has really just kind of risen, we are proud to announce the first ever Pool Chasers Mixer, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be Thursday, November 1st from 4:30. That's when the doors are going to open at Stoney's Rockin' Country. It's 2.5 miles away from Mandalay Bay. So it's a super close trip from the International Pool and Patio Show. But this is seriously going to be the coolest thing ever. This facility, me and you went and checked it out. Mm-hmm. It was pretty badass.
Super.
And we filmed the whole entire inside of it. So we're going to share that with all of you. But once you RSVP, some things that you're going to get, you'll get a 2-drink ticket, access to the taco bar, a custom Pool Chasers hat, and a custom Pool Chasers pin. And we have them all numbered, you know what I mean? For, and these are just going to be for the people that attend the mixer. And there's a cool little, saying quote on the back. So that's pretty sweet. But this place is ridiculous. There's pool tables, ping pong tables. There's even a mechanical bull. I'm not quite sure you know, who's up for that? I think I'll be down for that. But they got stuff like that in there, which is pretty cool. And another huge thing is we're actually bringing our podcast recording equipment so that we can talk to as many people as we can and make an episode out of it. But more importantly, it's, you know, for us to really get to know you and your business. And yeah, we're just super excited for everyone to get in there and network with each other and know that you're with the Pool Chasers family. That's the most important thing, is because if you know anything about Pool Chasers, you know that everybody that's a part of it is positive and they want to grow their business, or they just want to learn, or they want to share their knowledge, whatever it may be. That's what we all want to do. And when you get to be in a room with people that have the same, you know, vision as you, that's going to be electric. And that's
going to change the world.
Yeah, it's going to change everything. It's going to make your life better for sure. 100%.
Yeah, we're super excited. It's something that we've been developing and working on for several months now, and we've tried to, you know, come up with the best ideas possible for you guys. And we think, you know, there's so much value in being around other companies that have the same like-minded. And, you know, just by launching the Facebook group alone, you know, it's only been open for like a month, and you can tell the interactions and the way people are talking and growing, and it's crazy. Like, that's what it's about, but it's in person. We're also going to try to have as many people from the podcast episodes as possible be there. So, you know, everybody, you know, as many people as we've had on from episode 1 through 15, we're going to do our best to get them to the show if they're already attending, and have them come. And I think that's a super cool part of it, because you get to interact with somebody you've already heard on the podcast. You probably have questions. I had questions. Greg's had questions. After every episode, we always talk for another 15, 20 minutes about stuff that we had questions on that we mentioned in the podcast. I mean, everybody has certain questions. So be able to talk to those people in person and ask them and how they relate to your business. You know, if you're a builder, there's builders. If there's pool service, there's pool service. There's a couple manufacturers, different products. I mean, there's Pool Pro magazine. There's a lot of different aspects that we've put out, and it's somewhere you can go and mingle with those people and ask them those questions. So that's pretty cool. It is $100 a ticket. It's not free to rent a place. But we think there's so much value out of that $100. I mean, I would gladly pay that, and to be around other individuals and other people. If 5 years ago, if something like that was given to me, I would jump at that, because I think it's just an opportunity that you can't miss, and that doesn't come around too often. And you just get the opportunity to be around people that, you know, you can grow and learn from. And, you know, you get it, obviously you get, like I said, 2 drink tickets, dinner, and, you know, hat and pin. So it's pretty cool value.
Yeah. And this is I think this is a pretty big risk for us, because I mean, this is our money. This is thousands and thousands of dollars that we've already shed out to make this, you know, happen. And this is basing it on that we're going to get, you know, a good amount of people there that we can be around, and it's going to make for a huge memory. If you get to make it there, even us, like, we'll never forget, you know, the first mixer, and hopefully there's many more to come after that.
Yep.
But just the thought of being able to talk with everyone and smile, have a good time, break bread together, you know, have a couple drinks, that just seems like the coolest thing ever. And we're really looking forward to having as many of you there as possible.
Yeah, it sounds so awesome to us, just even for us to learn as well as you guys. So we're super excited.
So if you guys want to RSVP for the Pool Chasers Mixer in Las Vegas at Stoney's Rockin' Country, you can go to www.poolchasers.com and go to the events tab, and that'll actually open up another window on Eventbrite where you can actually pay the $100 and RSVP. So all your information will get in there, and that's pretty much it. But there's more details there as well, so you can kind of look over everything that we had talked about. But yeah, it's that easy, and we really hope that you can make it.
Yeah, please come join us, guys. One more thing I want to talk about is the forms that came in from all the merchandise, and you know, we didn't really understand how valuable these would be. I know we've mentioned them here and there, but there's so much value in them, in even us being able to read the struggles and understand, you know, what other people are going through and what we went through in the beginning. It's so raw and like real to us. And, you know, we really wanted to kind of jump in and share some of those with you guys, because it's it was so humbling and mind-blowing to us to read all these stories and all these questions and different things people had. And, we think you guys really benefit from hearing this and kind of knowing that other people are going through the same thing as you are.
Yeah. And I mean, this was pretty emotional, I think, for both of us, because there's so many of these stories that we can relate to. And somebody that hasn't been through some of these things, they might not understand. But I think me and you both know where we were in life when, and some of that stuff we're going through ourselves. But there were so many things that, we were going through, and we remember where we are at in life. And it was like, we knew what it was like to be on a shoestring budget and not have the money to do certain things. And it was late nights and not knowing what was going to happen. And so it was pretty emotional for us. And it really means a lot to have this community and podcast, because we know that if you listen to the show, it's going to motivate you to do what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And if you're a small business owner, maybe you'll, do things differently, and you'll be, you'll just be a better business because of it.
Yeah. So why don't you guys listen to these stories? And, it's just another reason to come to the mixer if you can, because these are real, these are raw, these are what real people wrote. And it's what people are really going through. And, you can join people like have these same ideas and have these same struggles and try to work through them together. So, take a listen, and we hope you guys enjoy, and we hope to see you at the mixer.
I've struggled lately with my personal downtime. I work 40 hours a week at my day job, and then I do pools on the weekends. I feel guilty for watching a movie at night or even going fishing on Sunday, because I feel like that time I should be spending on building up my business. Like, if this is something I really want to do, then I need to be pouring 100% of myself into it. I know it's important to relax and unwind, but it's been very hard lately.
The biggest problem now and forever has been that I am the keystone of every aspect of my business. All the financials run through me, all the logistics run through me, all the customer calls go straight through me. So I am my own bottleneck.
Just trying to get customers to pay more. Seems like the industry is still charging prices from the 90s. Trying to elevate the industry here locally.
Finding good people with any experience, excellent communication to my team and our customers are two of our biggest struggles.
At the moment, we are switching over to a new software. The struggle is having clients switching to the system with us.
The most difficult thing for me is finding good help. I try and pay top of the scale for this area, but it seems like there's a lot of flakes or lazy people. I don't want to blame them. Maybe my training is not as good as they expected or some other issue, but my biggest struggle is finding good employees.
Finding good employees that can mentally and physically stay through all year round in this grueling industry without quitting or not showing up to their pools. It's one of the toughest jobs out there that doesn't get enough credit. We've had a lot of different people, personal trainers, even professional athletes, not able to keep up with the pace of the pool cleaning.
We are booked out 2 months in advance year-round, 3 to 4 leak detections and repairs a day. The only issue is that we need to update our website, pursue our better online presence.
1. Finding and keeping employees. 2. Trying to manage a crazy schedule with a very small crew. 3. Being year 3 of being in business, I'm still learning a lot about running the business. The whole battle of doing everything, paperwork, estimates, doing the actual labor, employees, etc., has been a struggle some days.
We are competing against service companies that are not paying proper taxes and insurance. Most of our competitors pay their employees as 1099s. They are getting away with not paying workman's comp, employment taxes, and proper general liability insurance. These companies are bidding service work substantially lower than us legit companies and profiting much more. All I want is a level playing field, fair competition. Must be California.
Must be. Customers who can't afford to fix or replace parts that break or leak, try getting a single mom with 5 kids who always pays us late every month just to replace an O-ring. Not gonna happen. Oh, and getting people to drain their pool is a nightmare.
No struggles, just solutions. I find our industry is a dying trade. Very hard to find good help or people to train.
Even though I have been in the industry for a while, I am new to running my own business and in a slightly different market than when I work for another company. Right now, my biggest struggle has been picking up good service accounts.
I also struggle with making the switch to doing pools full time. I still have my day job while trying to build the pool company up. I have limited daylight hours to do pools and can't take on too much more. But what I have isn't good enough to support me if I were to quit the day job. It's just taking the leap.
Teaching people how to tile clean efficiently without causing damage to tile, equipment, etc. Hard to train employees how to troubleshoot equipment malfunctions in the field.
Taking the next step. I always do way too much and have been stuck in the same spot for a while. I need to take the next step to grow and not sure what to do. Also, making time in the office is always hard. My family always comes first. I spend a lot of time with my projects, and when I get home, my wife and kids always have something going on.
We struggle to maintain good employees. We feel like we do a great job of setting our guys up for success. The challenge with that is they feel empowered to go out and do the work for themselves. Our ability to grow is limited by the fact that we need good people in the field to maintain the reputation we have cultivated over many years without training our next most qualified competitor.
Getting customers to provide feedback online, gaining more customers, explaining the difference of what our company can offer.
Hard to find quality help, lack of education, work smarter versus working harder.
I left my management position at a major pool service company in OKC and started my own company. Struggles are finding the time to train new staff and still get all the work done. Also learning when to say no and staying in my lane.
Growth. We are growing at a rapid rate and struggling to keep up. It's a good problem to have, but still a problem. We're having a hard time finding reliable employees.
I think I could definitely be a better communicator with our customers.
Accounting and bookkeeping system and knowing when to hire our first employee.
Having my company run smoothly while I'm away. My company also lacks clear policies and procedures.
We hear you loud and clear. After reading the forums, it was more clear than ever why we started the Pool Chasers podcast.
It was so difficult for us to find any sort of outlet in the beginning. All of your stories sound so familiar as we have struggled with most of them ourselves at one point. The stories, your struggles, the successes, they're all real, and we love that we can grow alongside you guys by learning through each other's experiences.
We feel this is the best way to bring the whole entire community together. It would really mean the world to us if you could join us at the first ever Pool Chasers Mixer in Las Vegas.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.